Tennessee State University, and today we're going to be talking about gazing on social justice. And what that means is we're going to be talking about how teaching statistics with social justice provides a learning experience that's strongly aligned with the GAISE undergraduate recommendations. To do this, we're going to talk through a sample investigative task that demonstrates this alignment. So the first part of the task is the data set that supports the task. And this is a large multivariate data set in a social context. It's generated from responses to the University of Chicago General Social Survey response set. And the data that I selected were cleaned to help make reasoning easier for students. You could use any other social context data set for this task. I just selected this one. And to help with demonstration purposes, I've pre-selected some variables that lead us into a question. And the variables that I selected were race, social class, race discrimination, and gender discrimination. And this leads us to a question of does the respondent's race make them more likely to self-report feelings of discrimination? So now let us see what that looks like in CODAP. So in CODAP, just like our students would do, let's take a look at what this might look like in a graph. So we are going to start with our primary variable that we're looking at, which is respondent race. And then we're going to look at how likely they are to identify or respond that they feel like they're the victim of discrimination. And so we drag that to our secondary variable. And to help make things a little bit easier to see, we're going to put a way to count. And since our variables aren't exactly even, we're going to use percentages. And we can start to see some differences across. And we'll leave those differences to be explored for gender discrimination or social class for a refinement. So the task itself embraces investigation because it makes students develop a question and has them walk through questions about how to answer that question and why specific variables are meaningful to their question. It also can be used across a semester. So in our specific example, we looked at race and identification of gender, of identification of discrimination. And so we can answer that a couple of different ways. We could look at a graph and interpret a graph, but as we move through content through the semester, we could use probability to answer that question, or later on we could use proportion testing to see if there are differences. And so it can be used across the semester, and we would refer to that as statisticians as refining our investigation and applying different tools. So this is flexible in design because you can use this as a single lesson to make one point, or as a project throughout the semester to help students learn about refining an investigation. So in conclusion, the students engage with real data to develop their own statistical questions, and they use technology to carry out these investigations. This means that students are engaged in active learning while developing a sense of which variables and statistical procedures are the most appropriate to solve problems. Assessment occurs in multiple forms throughout the semester or throughout the process of the lesson, regardless of how it's implemented. And all of this occurs while students are learning how to use the data to speak on social issues. Thank you for listening, and the scaffolds and supports for my lesson are available in the Beyond section.